Welcome, students. We're going to take some notes on Rome. We're going to look first at the Roman Republic, which is chapter 6.1, and then we will look at the Roman Empire, which is chapter 6.2. As you can see with the map there of Italy, Rome is the capital, and Italy is surrounded by water of the Mediterranean and has a lot of geographical features that make Rome very much into an empire. So let's do a quick review. What is a republic? A republic is a government in which citizens elect leaders. The Romans were the first ones to develop that idea of republic. The Greeks developed the idea of a democracy with direct democracy where individuals voted directly for things, but a republic is where citizens elect people to vote for them. This is kind of like the ASB at your school. You vote for your ASB to make decisions for you. So the Athenians in Greece, they had a direct democracy, whereas the Romans, they will have more of a republic. Tribunes would be elected by the commoners, and this was from the vocabulary that you took, so you don't need to write down tribunes. But those were the elected representatives who protected the plebeians' rights. So the ASB could, in a sense, be considered tribunes. 12 tables, that became the basis for Roman law, carved on actual 12 tablets. They were hung in the Forum, which is the government place, kind of the capital, if you will, of the Roman Republic. Laws confirm the rights of all free citizens to protect, for the protection of the law. And that is key. In order to have a free society, you need to have a written law that protects people's rights, that basically limit the power of how much the government power is. This is called civil liberty. When you are protected by law from an unjust government, when there's laws that say how much power the government can have, who creates laws, who has different responsibilities, that type of constitution or law protects the rights of the people. Citizenship was limited to adult male landowners. So in order to be a Roman citizen, you had to be an adult, you had to be male, and a landowner. Those are the qualifications for voting, which in America's early republic, that was as well until the early 1800s. How does a constitution protect citizens? How is this similar to other civilizations? We can see a picture of the 12 tables right there, a picture of the Forum. Let's look at how does this similar to other civilizations. Well, the government under the Republic, we'll have the consuls. If you remember, there's two of them, one for the military and one for domestic policy. You'll have two different branches of the legislature that make laws. You'll have the Senate, chosen from the Roman upper class. They make foreign domestic policy, so more of the national policy, whereas the democratic assemblies, those elect tribunes to make laws for the common people. And so this is like the two houses in America's legislature, also the two houses in Britain. In Britain, you have the House of Lords, which is like the Senate, where it's based on hereditary title. And then you have the House of Commons, which is for the common people. In America, you have the Senate, which is the upper house, which has 2 senators per state. And then at the lower house, which is the Congress, the House of Representatives, you have it based on population. So the American 2-house legislature, which is based on the British model, was based on the Roman Republic. And this is an idea of separation of powers. It allows both sides to be heard, and that's what's key here, is that in the Roman times, you had the people that had basically power and prestige and riches be able to be heard in the Senate, and you had the common people be heard in the democratic assemblies. In America, we don't have it exactly that way. We have it based on equality in the Senate, 2 per state. And then we also have population. If your state is higher in population, then you'll have more of a voice in the House of Representatives. A little bit more review. You don't need to write this down, but dictators, those were leaders appointed briefly in times of crisis. And remember that those dictators were a positive thing. Just like FDR during the Great Depression and World War II was a benevolent dictator, a positive dictator. He ran 4 times for president. The Constitution at that time had not said that he couldn't. However, Washington had set that precedent that a president in America only runs 2 times, and that's because Washington wanted to teach the nation a lesson that a person should not have too much power and become a dictator. So these dictators during Roman times were elected for a short time to put down a national emergency. The Roman army, known as the Roman legion, military unit of 5,000 infantry, supported by cavalry, broken up into smaller units of 80 called a century. Don't ask me why it's only 80 and not 100 when century means 100, but it was 80. Property owners had to serve in the military. This was the powerful and key factor in Rome's rise to greatness. So the Roman army in the Republic did not simply have commoners or poor people in their army, but they actually had the landowners. There was a sense of pride in fighting for your country because you own land. And the military was quite well disciplined and had something worth fighting for because they were protecting not just their country, but actually their property, if you will. The Punic Wars were those 3 wars against Carthage, where the Roman Republic would gain a superior role in the Mediterranean. That was part of your homework in 6.1. Rome spreads its power. Rome conquers the Mediterranean. They will defeat their previous northern overlords, known as the Etruscans, which is where we get the Latin language from. The Greek city-states of Athens and Sparta and others will also be conquered by the Romans, surprisingly enough. Carthage, 3 times under the Punic Wars, would be conquered by the Romans. By 265 BC, Rome controls the entire Italian peninsula and is doing quite well for themselves. Rome treats the conquered peoples justly, enabling Rome to grow, and that's a real key feature right there. As they're conquering the Mediterranean and having exclusive rights of trade in the Mediterranean, they are treating their conquered people with justice. So it keeps these conquered people from revolting and rebelling. If you treat your conquered people with justice, they will not have a reason to rebel. Later on, during the Roman Empire, when things start to not be so just, different groups will rebel. But generally, during the Roman Republic, there is peace. As you can see right here, the Mediterranean would be their place of trade. They're strategically located in the middle right there. And when Carthage in the Third Punic War came through Spain and then through Gaul and descended on northern Rome, remember Scipio then launched a counterattack against Carthage the city, which made the Carthaginians, such as Hannibal, move back to Carthage. A good defense, or a good offense, is a good defense, so to speak. The Roman Republic collapses. So economic turmoil, there's going to be a gap between the rich and the poor that widens. Farmers and former soldiers start to lose large estates of land to rich and become homeless. And that becomes a problem because these people that had formerly owned land and been very loyal to this idea of a Roman Republic are starting to question things. So civil war ends up breaking out between the rich and the poor. Desperation leads to rebellion. Military upheaval also happens, not just economic turmoil, but also military upheaval. The military becomes very undisciplined and disloyal to the Roman Republic. Soldiers are recruited from the poor and show loyalty only to their personal generals. And so this is like the American Civil War, where the South will have generals like Lee, A.P. Hill, Jackson, Longstreet that will fight during the Mexican-American War and gain a lot of notoriety in the Mexican-American War. And then when they secede from the Union, they will also take those military men in the South that had fought with them in that war. And so, just like in Rome, this Civil War, that disloyalty to the Republic and loyalty to the generals will start to drive a wedge. Julius Caesar takes control. Military leader is elected consul. And if you remember, a consul was kind of like president. You had the consul of domestic affairs and foreign policy, and you also had the consul of the military. Caesar, Crassus, Pompey form a triumvirate, a group of 3 leaders. Military victories give Caesar increasing popularity and power. Very successful military victories. Pompey fears Caesar's growing power and challenges him. Caesar defeats Pompey's armies in Greece, Asia, Spain, Egypt, and Pompey would lose. Julius Caesar takes control. Caesar marches his troops on the city of Rome and dissolves the Republic. Roman law forbid troops in Rome for fear of a coup d'etat, a military takeover. But he defies that Roman law and marches his troops into Rome. Caesar is named dictator for life in this move. So he does not just name himself dictator for the short term and then give power back to the Senate. He totally absolves the Senate, and the Senate will not take that very kindly. Caesar makes reforms. He's going to grant wider citizenship and also grant jobs for the poor. And this is what a dictator will oftentimes do. They will grant a lot of promises and create a lot of opportunities just to get people's support, but take away their freedom and their rights along with giving them items. A group of senators oppose Caesar and murder him on March 15th, 44 BC. The famous Et tu, Brute. Even the senator Brutus, that was Caesar's best friend, would also stab him. Now, all the senators stab him one time to show solidarity and also so that no one senator is either guilty or guiltless of killing Caesar. Now we get to the Roman Empire, 6.2. The beginning of the empire, Caesar's 3 supporters take control. So whenever a dictator is removed, other dictators take their power. Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus' alliance ends in jealousy and violence. In 31 BC, Mark Antony and Cleopatra forces are defeated at Actium. Mark Antony had married Cleopatra, the pharaohess of Egypt. But when Octavian was clearly going to defeat them, they committed suicide by being bitten by an asp, a poisonous snake. So Octavian accepts the title of Augustus, known as Caesar Augustus, exalted one, and rules Rome. And if you remember, the Gospel of Luke starts off with Caesar Augustus and how he had created an edict for all the world to be taxed and registered. So he was very much into a sound government. Pax Romana, that was one of the vocab terms. That means the peace of Rome. So for 200 years under this Roman Empire, there will be peace and prosperity. That was one of the vocab terms. A sound government. Under Augustus, Rome moves from a republic to an empire. So even though Julius Caesar is the first one who acts as an emperor, who is the dictator for life, it's really under Augustus that the first emperor is born. Power no longer resides with citizens or the Senate, but in a single ruler. Augustus, Rome's ablest ruler, creates a lasting system of government, glorifies Rome with beautiful public buildings, sets up a civil service to administer the empire. So those 2 things really beautify the empire and help it to grow. Agriculture and trade. 90% of Romans are farmers. That's why the Roman god Mars is not just the god of war, but also the god of agriculture, because you have kind of this warrior farmer, so to speak. Agriculture is the most important industry in the empire. Common coin, the denarius, makes trade within the empire easier because when you have a singleized, standardized currency, you're able to know how much things are worth. You're able to have better trade instead of bartering, and it makes the empire grow. You might have heard the term denarius in the Bible. When Jesus was asked by the Pharisees if they should pay taxes, they thought they were trapping Jesus. Jesus took one of these coins, a denarius, and asked whose inscription is on it, and they said Caesar, and he said, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and render unto God the things that are God's. Basically, if you're going to use the government's tools, such as money or roads or infrastructure, then you better respect the government. And that's the same thing with wearing masks. If the government asks us to wear masks, you kind of have to abide by the law. Now, in your private property, in your private home, you can do what you want, but when you're around other people, you do have to follow the rules because we use much of the government's resources. Whenever you're in public places, you have to listen to the government. When you're in private places, you can do as you please. Rome has a vast trading network, which includes China and India, the Silk Road. Network of Roman roads start to develop. So this links the empire all the way to Persia and all the way to Russia even. So a huge network of trade happens under this empire. Society and culture, the rich live really well, but most people are poor. They receive grain from the government. If you've read the books or seen the movie, The Hunger Games, this is where the Hunger Games gets its inspiration from. You'll have the capital, which lives a very lush lifestyle, whereas the poor are those who have to compete in the gladiatorial type games, known as the Hunger Games. In the Roman Republic or Roman Empire, you would have 150 holidays, Colosseum events, everything to distract the masses from the loss of freedom and the loss of their rights. Slavery is a significant part of the Roman life in both cities and farms. Some slaves become gladiators, forced to fight to the death. They would even put Christians in these Colosseum gladiatorial games later on to feed them to the lions because the Christian faith will become a threat to the empire, but then the empire under Constantine will endorse Christianity. So that is it for the notes. Go ahead and take a summary of these notes, place the big ideas in the margin, and submit these notes to Google Classroom. Thank you very much.